The big learning that we had is nothing trumps volume. Term is second place by a long shot to volume in getting pricing leverage.
How long do you stay on calls waiting for someone to join?
If you're in a company culture where people are punctual, if you're 1 minute late, people are hitting your Slack saying, "Are you joining?" And you're like, "I will be there." Was this a purposeful, strategic, elegant move, or did the market kind of force their hand on it?
And this is where my conspiracy theory tinfoil hat comes out.
I won a physical box of cards. I opened up that box of cards and I was like, well, these are super cool. I love these. I'm going to go to the store and buy another box.
Expansion revenue.
Expansion revenue.
From Mostly Media, it's Mostly Growth. Go-to-market strategist Kyle Poyer and CFO CJ Gustafson share smart takes on growing revenue and running a company. Pricing, unit economics, AI, leadership, candid insights for CEOs, CFOs, and CROs, or anyone else aspiring to climb to the C-suite. This is Mostly Growth.
Hey, thanks for listening. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. If you run go-to-market, you already know the problem. Your go-to-market data is everywhere. Ads, CRMs, sales calls, marketing, spreadsheets, but you're still guessing what to do next. HockeyStack is the AI platform for modern go-to-market teams that collects all your customer data and unifies it into a single system of action. Then you deploy AI agents that prospect the right accounts, help reps close and upsell deals, improve forecast accuracy, and automate what's already working across sales and marketing. Instead of running 5-year-old processes manually, your go-to-market team finally has agents that understand your ICP, your funnel, and your buying motion, and they execute on it. That's why teams like RingCentral, Outreach, ActiveCampaign, and even Fortune 100 companies rely on HockeyStack to cut through the noise, eliminate wasted spend, and make better go-to-market decisions faster. That's HockeyStack, the AI platform that helps go-to-market teams make space to think and win. Here's a growth tax nobody talks about. Every new monetization model you ship creates a nightmare for your finance team. Add usage-based pricing? Now you're tracking consumption against commitments. Launch product bundles? That's multiple performance obligations per contract. Offer mid-cycle upgrades? Woo! Good luck reallocating revenue manually. The irony is brutal. The pricing innovations that drive growth are the same ones that often break your finance process. But that's exactly where RightRev shines. RightRev is the revenue recognition engine built for companies that can't afford to let accounting slow down growth. Here's what most people miss, and I've come to deeply appreciate. Revenue recognition isn't just a finance problem. It's a go-to-market enabler. When your RevRec is automated, your product team can ship new pricing without asking finance for permission. And your sales team can close creative deals without worrying about downstream chaos. To get up on my CFO soapbox for a sec, I love talking about creative pricing models, hybrid pricing, credits, tiered usage. It's where real growth happens. But I've seen too many companies where the sales team is celebrating a huge quarter while finance is still trying to figure out how to recognize half of it and crying in the corner. RightRev lets you experiment with pricing without wrecking your close process. And honestly, in a world where your pricing model might change 3 times next year, that flexibility is everything. If you want to scale your monetization without breaking your books, visit RightRev.com. That's RightRev.com, where modern monetization meets bulletproof accounting. Here's a question. When was the last time you really had time to focus on growth and not chasing contract renewals, tracking shadow IT spend, or explaining rising software costs to the board? Yikes! The truth is, traditional spend management is broken. If you're still piecing together data from 5 different systems just to figure out what you're actually spending, while vendors keep on pushing those auto renewals and price hikes, my friend, I got a solution for you. That's where Tropic comes in. Tropic is an intelligent spend management solution that consolidates your spend data and processes into one unified offering, enabling insights and decisive action. It doesn't just show you where the problems are, it helps you solve them. From spotting hidden optimization opportunities like duplicative spend, to automating those painful procurement workflows, to giving you the best market data that turns every vendor negotiation in your favor. Tropic combines smart insights with real human expertise to keep you ahead of the curve. And I can say firsthand because I've used them for over 2 years. Their SaaS platform helps me with price checks. It helps me keep my calendar organized of when renewals are coming up and I can actually visualize it. And let me say, it saves me more than 10 hours a week on vendor management, and we've saved a ton on renewals. I'm walking into the boardroom with a lot more confidence. Isn't it time to turn your spend management into your competitive advantage? Visit tropicapp.io/mostlymetrics. That's tropicapp.io/mostlymetrics. Welcome back to another episode of Mostly Growth, the mostly serious podcast for anyone who cares about their company's growth. Today, me and Kyle are delighted to welcome Russell Lester, the president and CFO of Tropic, to the show. Thanks for joining us, Russell.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
We're supposed to talk pricing and discounting, but you're also a purveyor of fine collectibles. So give the people what they want. What's the latest collectible that you've obtained, Russell?
This is a $100 Christmas ornament, but do you see what it is?
That's supposed to stay on a tree?
It has a hook. Do you see it?
So for the benefit of people listening, it's a Star Wars collectible. And is that Chewbacca, R2-D2? What are they, around a table on like the Death Star or something?
Yeah, they're playing the game. And so if you push the button when it's plugged in, it actually does the line from the movie where R2-D2 is beating Chewbacca and Han Solo warns him not to beat a Wookiee because he can rip your arms out.
Russell, where do you get most of your collectibles? And more importantly, is it the thrill of getting the collectible, or do you try to drive a hard bargain with these people on eBay?
Yeah, so this was a gift, but like items like this, which are like vintage die-cast GoBots, these I acquire on eBay. Don't look for the buy it now, because the buy it now, they've set the price and you can't negotiate. Of course I want to negotiate. I look for those that are about to end in like an hour or two that no one is bidding on, and I scoop in and I buy these little jewels.
You got to use Tropic for some of that procurement. So one thing I was curious to get you guys' take on, I saw this LinkedIn post, a guy named Aaron McReynolds. He wrote, "How long do you stay on calls waiting for someone to join?"
There's the 10-minute professor rule, but to me that would feel far too long.
Is that if the professor didn't show up in the first 10 minutes, the class could leave?
But that feels obnoxiously too long. Sometimes the opposite is true, where if you're in a company culture where people are punctual, if you're 1 minute late, people are hitting your Slack saying, "Are you joining?" And you're like, "I will be there." I don't know, 5 minutes?
Ben texted me at 2:30 in a half minute and said, "I'm on the line with Russell right now." Personally, I wait 5, then I send them an email, and then I'll hang for like 2 more minutes, and then I'll drop.
I think emailing someone within 5 minutes is obnoxious, especially because I've been guilty of being 5 minutes late before.
If it was a meeting with somebody that I was trying to get in front of or something like that, I do think it's a bit different. Or if it's someone who's in your company or a peer, or if it's someone who reports to you, you may just hang up after 3 minutes. I don't know.
My very first boss when I was 22 was this big German dude. He's like 6'5", named Andre, and he was extremely punctual. And he thought if you're a minute early, you're too early. If you're a minute late, you're too late. But we were going to the client site one day and we're running like a couple minutes late for when we were supposed to meet. We meet him in the lobby, and in the elevator up, he goes, "If you are ever late again, I will remind you in such a way that you will never forget."
Well, we have some more serious topics that we want to transition to. Super serious discounting here. And so a couple months back, I reached out to my friend Russell and Justin over at Tropic because I had this question. Multi-year discounts. It feels like it's something I should lean into as a CFO, but is there a rule of thumb around how much I should get off for each additional year I commit to? And one thing led to another. We went down this twisty, windy path full of all these tornado charts. There were some pretty cool trends that we saw just in terms of where buyers are willing to go and where sellers are willing to go. Russell, just to tee you up here, what's your take on the prevalence of multi-year discounts in the market that we find ourselves in?
I have so much I could say about the process itself, which was bonkers and fun.
Maybe we start there because you went deep, man. You went real deep. I almost didn't find you. You went so deep.
I really started to notice the blast radius of this data set that we're sitting on, which is a procurement data set, can be used in so many ways that are not initially intuitive. Every time I thought that I answered the last question, I would iterate again, and it would open up a new vector. The nuances between what the pricing lever was, and was it the initial term or was it multi-year? Did it matter by supplier? How were the suppliers changing over time? And so the big learning that we had, which won't surprise Kyle, I'm sure, is nothing trumps volume. Term is second place by a long shot to volume in getting pricing leverage.
These AI companies, AI native companies, should they be offering multi-year pricing? Like, should buyers be taking multi-year right now, given how everything's changing? My rule of thumb right now is a year to 2 years feels like a good amount, but like a 3-year contract just for an AI native product feels wild to me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we do have to separate AI native versus every company in the world that's bolting on AI capabilities. The pure play AI companies that we are not even sure if they'll be around more than a year from now, you're very right that it would be foolish to sign multi-year with them, and most CFOs would likely prefer to go single year. I think our data set really concentrated on tools that are supporting the back office, whether it's a sales tool, a marketing tool, various operational tools. Our data set or all the big SaaS logos that you can imagine would be on the list.
I think it's also a good idea for some of the AI native companies to not offer multi-year yet if they don't know what their underlying cost structure was. And so we looked at, like Russell had mentioned, a lot of back office tools here, but there's a mix of SaaS-based pricing, commitment pricing, and usage pricing throughout.
So my take with multi-year discounting is often the hardest negotiators are the ones that are negotiating on price and negotiating out the like super long commit. And so how did you navigate like the selection bias and the impact of like a really tough procurement team or a buyer versus like what the vendor's policies were, or what they were trying to do?
We were focused on answering most chiefly the question of, are people fetching incremental discounting for signing multiple years? We first set out to answer that question. We then drilled into what drives whether or not that's the case, and it's concentrated in certain vendors, and then it changed over time. And so those changes over time could be reflective of the negotiation posture of those suppliers getting more stringent, because some of them, they simply don't negotiate on price, whether it's at renewal or at the initial sell or single year or multi-year. They just simply hold fast to their price point. And you're speaking to the behavioral data, right, Kyle?
I'm thinking more about what folks should be doing based on these insights, what the customer should be doing to try to get a better deal, which it sounds like just committing to a longer contract isn't necessarily what's going to get you a better deal. And then what vendors should do, right, with their multi-year pricing or just contracts in general.
Yeah, in some cases, it's better to sign a single year and then move to multi-year. Those that start multi and stay multi, often it's not advantageous for them. It's almost taken advantage of. I'm kind of inferring that in the data, but you can see that I do think there's an opportunity for them to sweeten the pot more. I mean, I remember the days where multi-year was more favored and they made it lucrative to sign multi-year. We see evidence of that in the data, that some suppliers are introducing that again, but not widespread. I think it's because there's so much flux on pricing in general. I mean, AI is muddying the waters. Per seat pricing is falling a bit out of favor. Portfolio companies want to invest in businesses that have both a consistent, predictable revenue stream and one that can scale linearly with use. And so I think we have all these forces kind of competing with one another at the same time.
Russell, something that you could also imply from the data is that there's this uptick avoidance as well from locking in multi-year. So you get a certain amount of discount, whether that be 2%, 3%, incremental on top of what you would get for a single year for each year about. But then there's also the fact like, well, if I'm locked in, then, Salesforce can't just jack it up 6 to 8% per year on me.
Yeah, for sure. You're selling the fear, right? And that fear is very real, but it's really the more sophisticated SaaS companies are the one that can execute the annual price increases at scale. It is harder for the smaller startup. They don't have the go-to-market engine to really pull that off. I mean, because you both know doing an annual price increase is no small task to actually execute on if you've ever been part of a company that does that.
Yeah, if 90% of your revenue is going to come from new customers, you'd probably say, screw it. But if you're Salesforce and you're trying to grow 10% next year, and you can get half that from price increases on your base, like that's a huge growth lever.
Yeah, and so to your point, you can't sleep on the benefit of that multi-year lock and avoiding the uptick that you would have otherwise achieved, especially for someone like a Salesforce.
Kyle, something that you brought up on the pod before is this concept of an AI tax. So the idea of shoving AI features that you may not want into an existing package that you have and increasing the price. Where's your head on that lately?
My head is literally spinning because I keep getting asked about AI pricing trends. And I'm like, there's literally almost no such thing as an AI pricing trend because it's just like more variety of pricing out there. The number one thing I'm seeing is a shift towards credit models where folks are saying, hey, we've got this AI thing. It costs credits. You get some credits with your existing plan and you've got to upgrade if you need more credits. But then there's a counter trend that some folks are doing. I've seen Notion do it, Slack do it, where they had AI as an add-on and now they're bundling it into their plans and using it as a reason to raise the prices of their plans. Have you been seeing this, Russell?
Few and far between are instances where there's like an AI module and people are getting expansion credit and able to charge more for people adopting it. It's far more likely that AI is becoming assumed table stakes. Even as a retention strategy, you have to have it. In many cases, it's just being used to defend and retain the existing revenue share and maybe in some cases drive expansion. But I think it's really getting muddy. In many cases, the suppliers are deploying AI capabilities the user maybe didn't even ask for. Not all AI capabilities are created equally. The degree to which it's driving true incremental value versus just making it more efficient for that company to deliver value to you. That's the real issue. Does the end user perceive that what they're getting from the product is actually better? Or is the vendor just trying to get them to pay for the investment they've made and making it more efficient for themselves?
Yeah, I think like an example is Google recently announced they're rolling out AI into a lot of their email. I would be willing to pay for a really great AI email product that is almost like a personal assistant, but like basic email summary that gets the email wrong half the time anyway. Like we're going to need to get way smarter on in an industry is delineating like real value versus just like check the box AI features.
And for the benefit of listeners, the biggest multi-year premiums that we saw were Fivetran, Looker, Avalara, CrowdStrike, 1Password, and Greenhouse. But it gets really, really confusing if you track the life cycle with specific vendors, because some vendors will kick you while you're down upon renewal and others will roll out the red carpet for you. And so while it was fascinating, and we did answer the question on like the median is 2 to 3% for multi-year, you get off. It is path dependent on who you're dealing with.
What I realized when I was digging into all of this was we're not dealing with a sterile data set where all other factors are neutralized and the only factors that are changing are term, price, and package. We're dealing with hundreds of tools across thousands of customers across, 5 years? We analyzed the data. Each of those companies have had different CROs, different go-to-market strategies, monetization. It wasn't a static environment we were even dealing with. So watching the life cycle, it was hard for me to determine sometimes, was this a purposeful, strategic, elegant move? Or did they just find their way into those adjustments because the market kind of forced their hand on it?
Or did the bundle of materials that was being priced got so complicated? And this is where like my conspiracy theory tinfoil hat comes out. It's so many SKUs that the sales team just says, let's just do like a 10% discount off the top because there's 50 things on here.
If every tool is getting more capable and more capabilities, then the overlap is just increasing more and more, which is what we call SaaS sprawl.
Russell, I mean, you guys are kind of in the business of helping companies save money on SaaS. How much money have you saved for customers, would you estimate?
Hundreds of millions. I should know that number right off the top of my head. We like to say that for someone's tech stack, we can save, if we get a shot at helping them optimize it with our data, high teens.
Even if someone's not using Tropic, like what are the top 3 things that a company should be doing if they want to save money on a SaaS tool?
Yeah, well, first of all, just getting a big picture of what are all the SaaS tools you're using. You probably have to click upstream even further and say, does how you're spending money as a company matter? Every CFO would say, yes, it matters. The CFOs don't find peers across the company where that's always true, especially at hyper-growth companies. They're like, no, we're just spending blindly and we don't care. But it begins with how we allocate scarce capital matters. Therefore, it's worth having a system of record to do that and understand how we're doing that. Therefore, it's worth having a methodical, scalable, repeatable process to vet what those investments are. And therefore, in doing that, we should equip ourselves with data that helps us know what is a fair price? What are the negotiation levers? And how does my price that I'm getting stack up? You can jump in any part of that funnel and drive effectiveness. The optimal approach begins philosophically at the top, at the leadership level, that we want to lock arms together as a leadership team and make sure we're deploying capital wisely. Because if you don't do that, you're going to invert the process and you're going to put a lot of pressure on the pricing and procurement people. If you're going to wait till it gets all the way down to them and expect them to drive the savings, when you don't have that alignment up top, it's going to be very difficult. So it begins with alignment up top, a data set that extends beyond your own expertise. This is key. We talk to lots of people that they're procurement experts, but they don't have hundreds of at-bats. And then the next step would be know where to focus and where not to focus. You can't focus on every single thing you're buying, so you've got to prioritize.
Russell, if you'll hear me, I want to use Tropic as kind of a case study here because I look at you as a company who has innovated their pricing model along with their product roadmap. And it's this awesome combination of services with a deep data moat. So I'm curious how you've thought about pricing services versus data access over time. I mean, you're the guy who has to pull all this together and figure out like what we're allowed to sell off the back of the truck and, and how much we should charge for it.
So in the past, when Tropic first began, we were predominantly a services provider. We would negotiate the renewals or the purchases on your behalf and help you save money, right? That's how we started. We evolved into a platform business that further evolved into an agentic business, leveraging all of this, world-class data that we now have access to. Nothing that we used to provide has gone. We can provide everything we used to provide. And we now also have a platform that can run compliance checks, integrate with the ERP, do invoice two-way matching, give you price benchmarking, negotiation playbooks, advisory services. And on top of all that, it's agentic. But the price in this market, we've got freemium providers, we've got folks monetizing payments. So there's a lot of noise happening on the pricing front.
And that's what I'm getting at. You helped kind of establish the category, right? And then a lot of others showed up to the party. And so that's something that you have to navigate.
You may know that what you're providing continues to be truly differentiated, but if the market is perceiving it as somewhat similar to a cheaper or free alternative, then it is the work of your go-to-market team to make sure that distinction and delineation is clear. And it means that value pricing and ROI modeling is more important than ever. If you were to ask yourself for your own company, what value are you getting out of your AI investment? It's really hard to measure. For Tropic, it's easy for us to take credit for instances where we're saving you money, where we negotiated a saving. That's concrete. It becomes a little more argumentative to say, well, we've saved you time, we've saved you risk, we've helped you avoid hassle, we've made your processes more efficient. All of that is actually real, but for them to, quote, save money, they actually have to change what they're doing as a business and fully adopt the service to see those benefits. And that's where it kind of muddies the valuation model for sure.
I guess where have you landed with all of that in mind?
We do a bundled price, and it's a predictable fee. It's currently based on your number of employees because employees is a proxy of your tech stack spend.
Russell, what's your observation with business models that try to price based on cost avoidance? So a little tiff I've always had with the procurement guys internally at a company, I'm running FP&A, and they come back and they say, well, we saved X amount of dollars, as if they're always hard dollars on something. But I'm like, dude, like no one was going to pay the MSRP on that. And like, you can't really prove it. It feels like one of those things to some people that, yes, that's real dollars. And to others, it's a bit smoke and mirrors. This isn't something that's specific to just procurement, because I know there are other companies out there that maybe they save you money on fuel. Maybe they give you credit card stuff back, something like that. What's been your observation with that?
It's hard to get credit for cost avoidance. If you don't feel the pain, it's not real. So we only take credit for the true dollars that we save someone. So if they get a quote back for $100,000 and we negotiate it down to $70,000, but the list price was $150,000, but they never were quoted $150,000, we don't take credit for the 70 versus the 150. You know what I'm saying? We take credit for the 70 versus the 100. If you're a CFO and you're seeing all these tools being purchased and everybody's promising all these efficiencies, you have to hold the company accountable to making sure the efficiencies are achieved. Sometimes the cost avoidance is, well, we won't have to hire another marketer. If we invest in this tool, we're going to avoid the need to hire another marketer because it's going to optimize some aspect of our marketing operations for us. And then 3 months later, you see there's a request for a marketing hire, and you forget that promise was made that this tool was going to help you avoid that. That quote, cost avoidance for headcount never was achieved.
Russell, one of the things I'm curious about is like, do your customers ever ask you, could we just pay a percentage of whatever money you save me? Like, do you ever get that request from customers?
We do. And the funny thing is, we'd make a lot more money if we did that.
I believe it. Yeah. What's been your response to that?
We want to be transparent with our pricing. We want it to be predictable. We don't want Tropic pricing to be part of the pricing problem for our customers. But it also creates a weird disincentive, an unhealthy alliance where the more we save, the more they pay. It's appealing in many ways because I know that we have the best commercial executive team out there because they've got over 100 years of experience combined in negotiating with all of these vendors. They're going to save money. But we also want to make sure we're doing what's in the best interest of the customer. And so today, the customer keeps all of their savings. We don't take a portion of it.
I want to piggyback on that, Russell, because I firmly believe in any business model where you're an intermediary, you have to choose a bit which side you lean towards, right? You can't be everything to everyone. So to give you an example, with parts tech, you had the suppliers who were supplying the auto parts, you had the garages who were fixing the cars. We always made it very apparent that we were garage first, right? If you look at Uber's model, you got the drivers and you get the passengers. Uber's made it very apparent that they are passenger first. I found it fascinating that Tropic from the start was, we're here for the little guy. We're here for the company first, and we will take on the negotiations here. Can you just take us through how that dynamic plays? Because you still have to be friendly with the suppliers as well, but it is kind of this dance.
We do. We are buyer first. We were built for buyers. And really what that does is allows us to be objective. And so if we go to a supplier and we're negotiating on behalf of the buyer, it's not that we have pre-approved house pricing. We don't actually negotiate. We know what fair pricing is. They know when Tropic comes to them that we're sitting on the data set, we're staring right at it. And so we negotiate what's in the best interest of the buyer. And I just think that keeps us aligned towards also what we're building in the platform. We're building the platform for the buyer to make sure they're able to access data and insights that can help fuel that purchase process. That's why we've got the purchase prep assistant, which is our agentic approach to equipping them with all of this pulse survey, compliance check, benchmarking data. Because pricing is getting more and more complicated, in my opinion, which is why, like, when people reach out to Kyle, like, what's going on with AI pricing? Like, AI has made it more complicated, not less. And nobody's figured it out. Comparing even one vendor to the next is tricky and difficult.
I recently did a sort of state of SaaS pricing rundown with Rob from Pricing SaaS. We looked at a bunch of different trends in pricing, and one of them is just this kind of rise of choose your own pricing. And so Salesforce, for example, has like 5 different ways that you can buy its AI product. Like, you can go license-based, you can buy credits, you can do per conversation pricing, there's an unlimited ELA, and customers could actually potentially save money if they pick the right model. That's a lot more work to figure out how to buy a product.
As you know, I'm kind of an odd CFO, so this may sound a little counter, but in spite of all the science with pricing, pricing is incredibly emotional and philosophical. And if you give people too many choices, I think it actually stagnates decision-making. They may be doing all of that to try to monetize more on the back end, right? Or increase their contract value. But what they might be doing is frustrating the buyer, making it harder for them to compare to the alternatives and stagnating sales cycles.
I firmly believe that people want solutions, not more choices.
Well, I think the big question is it's an enablement question in my mind. And so if you're really good at enabling reps and saying, hey, this is the kind of situation where you should sell this. Like, hey, this is a new customer that's in the Fortune 500. Let's go with an agentic ELA that gives them the most predictability. It's multi-year pricing. Like, that's the one they're going to be most interested in. If it's an SMB that's dipping their toe into AI, let's sell them an initial credit package so they can give it a try, and we can sell more credits from there. If you're able to give the reps good guidance, and so they're essentially pitching one core pricing model to the buyer, I think it could work. But like, that enablement is not easy to do. And at Salesforce's scale, I can only imagine the complexity involved.
Complexity and theater. Does it look better as a company if you greatly inflate your list price, and then when you negotiate, you come back with this huge discount so the buyer feels good that they negotiated well and they got a great discount? Is that best? If the markets are perfect and supply and demand are true, everything gravitates towards the mean and the price is the price. Like, what's the better approach? Everyday low pricing or inflated list price and this theater back and forth where you land at a price and everybody feels good because they negotiated?
I like everyday low pricing because I do think it has damage to your brand if you're showing that we think we're worth this, even though you don't actually think that, and we're going to come down. It hurts your perception of being a premium good if you're willing to discount. Now, there is a cultural element to this. I know in places like Japan and Asia, they expect to get like 300% off or something.
Well, I guess, Russell, you're sitting on the data here. What are you seeing? Are you seeing a trend towards everyday low price? Or are you seeing that whole wheel and deal mindset still pervasive?
The stronger the position of the provider competitively, the more stable their pricing. It may not be everyday low pricing, it's simply stable pricing. Whereas the more competitive their market, the more likely they are to use price to try to compete. Just cases where if their markets are being disrupted and there's alternatives, there's crazy things they have to do. And it may just deal more on the strength of the salesperson, the strength of the sales team and buoying the value proposition could differ. You've got companies that are cycling through different CROs and their go-to-market strategy is shifting. So their ability to hold the line on price could have changed over time, even in spite of the market.
Next up, we have got our segment called Pricing in the Real World, not the virtual world. It's the real world.
So I have a friend that wrote a business book and he made a joke to me. You should buy my physical book on Amazon. Don't get the Audible version of it, which uses 1 credit. He said, I make like no money off of that. But I bought the physical book because I wanted to help him out. Kyle, in the piece you wrote, you mentioned Audible credits there. I find this so fascinating because you can get a book that could be $40 for the same price as a book that could be $8. But to Amazon, it's just 1 credit on the back end.
I mean, that's the challenge with these credit models in general. Is this push and pull between like predictability and value alignment. If you're a vendor, like there's a lot of different actions that are very different value propositions for the customer. And so you'd want to have like a pretty complicated system to be like, this is 10 credits, this is 5 credits, this is 1 credit, this is half a credit. But as soon as you do that, like the simplicity of pricing and just like, oh, it's 1 credit per book, you're not able to offer that to the customer and it just confuses the hell out of them. I've seen with like ClassPass, their credit model when you're like, okay, a Barry's bootcamp is this and like going to the gym is Y. And if you have the market power of an Amazon, you can get away with simplicity. If you don't, you probably can't pass on the downside of simplicity to the authors, but Amazon has that power in the market.
What's hilarious about it is it's so simple for somebody on the front end. Oh, it's 1 credit. The Gemini summary of how authors get paid out on an Audible credit is like 5 pages long, Kyle. It's like the most complicated formula. But it's funny because on a prior episode, Russell, we dove into the business of being an author and found out that it really sucked. Most authors don't make like any money. Somehow being an author that reads their book is even worse.
That's crazy.
Russell, did you have a pricing in the real world this week?
So the way that I bond with my son is we collect sports cards. There's a digital app where you can open virtual packages of cards. They were running a promotion where you could buy crystals that would let you purchase an opportunity to open packages that would help you win physical boxes of the product. And it was like a 1 in 2,000 chance. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm bonding with my son over this. So I bought some crystals. Lo and behold, I open up a pack and I won a physical box of cards. I opened up that box of cards and I was like, well, these are super cool. I love these. I'm going to go to the store and buy another box.
Expansion revenue.
And so that's everybody's dream, right? Is to have a product where you can give them a taste of it. And the more they consume it, you ease them into the purchasing process, buying it something that they actually feel rewarded. Like, I'm glad I gave you my money because I won this physical box of cards.
I don't have pricing in the real world this week, but I do have a business blunder. So did you see Gartner introduced a new term? OaaS, Outcome as Agentic Solution.
Which of the letters are capitals and which are lowercase?
OaaS.
OaaS. Yes. There's a concept here where like, I think we need a new term other than AI native. And like calling something AI SaaS doesn't sound very good. It's like we kind of need something for like agentic AI. It's like, what is the category here? I love the direction they're going in, but I think they really missed the mark on the term. It reminds me of when everyone just sort of took product-led growth and they're like, all right, now we've got sales-led growth and marketing-led growth and partner-led growth. It's like, we don't need more hyphen-led growth. Did you guys see CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, was last week?
Is that the big one in Vegas? That's like 150,000 people or something?
Yeah, it's like the biggest tech conference out there. Like NVIDIA announced a bunch of big stuff, but they have a Worsted show. So the worst products launched at CES, which I think is kind of hilarious. An AI refrigerator, AI companions, and AI doorbells. I get someone was like, oh, we can scan your fridge and see what you're missing or what's about to go bad and like automatically order you new stuff on Instacart. But I bet that works like 0% of the time. And that just seems like such a hassle.
Do you scan everything you put into your fridge? And would you remember to do that? And which is the bad batch of eggs versus the good? I don't know.
And Amazon apparently released some new features with their Ring doorbell. They basically announce if there's unusual activity. But that just means that they are basically doing mobile surveillance to match the faces of anyone who have ever been by your door. And so that data set starts getting really creepy.
So my business blunder, have you noticed that on LinkedIn now, everyone is an expert?
Yeah.
Everyone is proliferating their expert insights at an increasing pace. Let's acknowledge that some people are naturally highly gifted and have high intelligence. They are a jewel to us, that they exist, that we get to coexist with them. And both of you are among those. Us average people, we're not going to every single day have some mind-blowing insight, but people are using LinkedIn more and more and more to like post their pontifications as if they're mind-blowing insights. I think it's making the content game so much harder because there's so much noise now. And I'm 30 years plus into my career, so this is going to sound like old man talking, but like early on, I wanted to learn and there was a hunger to seek out information. Are we moving more towards where people think they're smart because of AI, but they're actually losing their ability to think? They're short-circuiting the hard cycle of actually learning through experience.
That totally resonates with me.
On the one hand, I see what you're talking about all the time. I also think like a lot of dumbed down stuff is the thing that can appeal to a lot of people and so can go viral. Everyone actually has something unique that they see in their job that would be useful for other people. They're just not very good, generally speaking, at like self-editing to find out what that is. And so like, I think even if you're like 22, just starting your first job, it's like, how did you get that job? Really generic sort of life advice is probably not the thing.
Regardless of your experience level, we all have learnings and insights to share, and it's all about honing our ability to deliver that message.
To that point, I've always thought on Run the Numbers, and I'm interviewing people. Hell yeah, he's repping the brand. Every person has 1 hour of amazing kick-ass content in them. It's just how do you get it out of them? And what I feel with AI, the art is now teasing that out, right? Like it's very easy to sound convincing in an empty way. How you do the research to know what somebody is truly an expert at. I know we were joking about the term before, and ask them the questions to expose that. I think that's becoming something of increasing value.
Did you do your AI year-end review with ChatGPT?
Oh yeah, that was my business blunder in a previous episode because it was so creepy how well it knew me.
I agree. And then I went further and I asked it more information. It was so creepy, on point. And I'm like, okay, we're done talking today.
I think that's a good wrap-up point.
Cool. Thanks for the opportunity. Lots of fun. Honored to have been able to be on a show.
Mostly Growth is a Mostly Media production. Executive produced by Ben Hillman. That's me. Nothing said on this podcast is intended to be business or investment advice. It's the sole opinion of CJ, Kyle, and Ben. Just some guys who love talking growth. Mostly. If you like this podcast, hit subscribe. Give us 5 stars or hit like. The algorithm overlords thank you. Drink water, call your mom, and have a great day.